It's wonderful to see that on our Wednesday evening, we have so many of you joining, which shows your enthusiasm as an educationist and your zeal to know a lot more about the checkpoint. We'll do a lot of discussion that's there. We'll start very shortly. We are waiting for our other colleagues to join us. So we have Ms. Alka also joining us. Great. I think we are good to begin. So our webinar today is about building foundations for future success, exploring the Cambridge primary and the lower secondary checkpoint and its advantages. We welcome all of you, Ms. Alka Pandey, and I'm Rakhi Mukherjee, the academic advisor from Cambridge International Education. Welcome all of you. And today, of course, we have a very special guest joining us today at this platform. As we proceed, we'll see who our special guest is. So we have Ms. Rakhi Mukherjee with us. Of course, she'll help us understand better about the checkpoint assessment, which is there from Cambridge. Before we begin our webinar, we have a few house rules. Let's quickly go through them once. To ensure a productive and respectful webinar experience, please keep your microphone muted unless speaking. Webcam usage is optional. Please use the chat box for Q&A and comments. Please keep questions concise and relevant. Please do not share session. Please notify the moderator if experiencing difficulties. We'll also have a dedicated Q&A session to address your concerns. So with this note, let's begin. So who is in the room today? If our participants could quickly write about themselves, introducing themselves, and one expectation from the webinar. Alka, what do you suggest? Should our participants put them down in the chat box?
It's always very useful to understand what are the expectations, what do you want to hear from us, are we addressing all your query points or not? Yes, definitely we would want to hear from our participants here. So let's have some inputs from you.
Wonderful. So let's quickly have a quick introduction of yours, your name, who you are, and what are your expectations today from this webinar. I can see a couple of responses, Alka, coming up already.
Right.
So we have our educationists joining all across. I mean, that's wonderful to see.
We are around 60 participants. So we are looking at getting a lot of names and getting to know you through your names.
Yes. So we have our educationists coming from across Gujarat, Bhopal, Kalyan, that Andheri. Okay, so it's a full mixed bag that we have today with us, and that's wonderful to see. Great. So a lot of them joining from Pune, from Gujarat, Baroda. Okay. Keep adding to the chat box. We would love to know about you, your school, and your expectation. And we continue this ahead. Let's see what we have after this. Right. So let's start our day, of course, the evening with a learning mind where questions are valued over answers. Alka, would you like to add a few lines to this? I am sure this is a quote which is very close to your heart as well, just like mine.
I know, Banali, that you are aware that I love to connect mindset with learning opportunities, because if we have a learning mindset, we are ever open to learning. And all of us, especially those in the domain of education, are forever there with a growth mindset to pick up learnings from different areas, different experiences. And that's true for our learners of Cambridge as well.
Absolutely. With that, let's set the context for the evening. The objective of the day is to streamline transitions, understand how Cambridge primary and lower secondary checkpoint assessments prepare learners for a seamless transition to the next stage of education. Data-driven excellence, of course, learns strategies for utilizing checkpoint data to enhance teaching and learning experiences, benchmark student performance globally, inform data-driven instruction, Personalized support, discover how diagnostic feedback from Checkpoint enables schools to tailor support for individual learners, enhance overall educational journeys. School advancement, appreciate the value of leveraging Checkpoint results to boost school profile and reputation, demonstrate academic excellence. And like I said, apart from Alka and myself, we have Ms. Rakhi Mukherjee, who will be sharing a wealth of knowledge and, of course, her experiences with the Checkpoint, which is going to add value and edge to the webinar today. So let's begin. So how do you know your learners have learned what they have learned? Can we have some answers in the chat box? So how do you know what your learners have learned? A quick on the chat box. A very short one, maybe just a few phrases. We are waiting for a couple of responses coming from our schools. Yes, Alka, would you like to add something? Why don't you?
I'm looking at, yes, asking and seeing that our participants are with us, they are focused. So we've started getting our responses. Thank you so much for giving these inputs.
Yes.
Yes. So again and again,
Yes,
we are there.
so we have a formative assessment.
Feedback.
Yes.
Conceptually understanding whether you want to
assessment.
Exit tickets.
There's a transfer of knowledge from home school to home. Good. Feedback polls. That's nice. Feedback polls. Exit tickets. Exactly, Alka. I think that's something very interesting and close to many of us during our classroom years, through classroom discussions. Project, constantly asking questions. Alka, so what do you say? I think we have a good lot of participants who are hugely active today.
Yes. And we have got from them that, yes, as teachers, we use a variety of assessment tools to assess and understand for ourselves whether our learners are with us in their learning journey or not.
Absolutely. And with this notion, let's see what Cambridge actually provides. So Cambridge provides a complete assessment cycle, like we always see. So Cambridge says that there's a baseline assessment, which we call as the Cambridge Chem, which is at the start of learning stage, where our learners now and where could they be. So after that, we have the ongoing formative assessments like the progression test to understand how the learning is progressing. And of course, at the end of the learning stage, we understand how the students have learned with our summative assessment like Checkpoint, IGCSE, and the A-level that we have. Moving ahead and knowing a little extra about these assessment cycles, about the different kinds of assessments at the primary and at the lower secondary level, which measures potential, check achievement, monitor progress, and provide feedback.
Thank you, Bernali. You have very nicely put it there up for our, summarized it and kept the key points on the screen for our delegates to go through. And as you have put there, there are various ways and at various points that the assessment of learning is being checked. And it's not only about the content and the conceptual knowledge, it's about measuring the potential. Which are the strengths, which are the weaknesses for our learners, and how do we have a further action plan to support them? So as so many of you have already shared, it's a continuous cycle which goes on and on.
Exactly. So it's a continuous cycle that is there. And in this cycle, so we have different kinds of assessment that keeps coming up. And today we are mostly stressing on the Checkpoint assessment and the progression tests which are there. Moving ahead, so the Cambridge primary and the lower secondary assessment, the checkpoints are available, as we all know, at the stages 6 and 9 only, whereas progression tests are available for stages 3 to 9. And the subjects for which these checkpoints are available are English, English as second language, mathematics, science, and of course, global perspective. The progression tests are available for English, English as second language, mathematics, science. And global perspective has assessment guidance. Apart from that, the other subjects like art and design, computing, digital literacy, humanities, modern foreign language, music, physical education also have assessment guidance, and you can find a plethora of documents available helping you and supporting you and guiding your schools in the School Support Hub. I'm sure all of your teachers are going through them. Along with this, we have a subject called well-being. All of you are aware of well-being. The Cambridge well-being also has a Cambridge well-being check assessment, which is available for the schools and their learners. Something which I would like to add over here is checkpoint is the assessment which Cambridge is conducting, and progression test is happening in the school, and the papers are corrected by the teachers. So there is no separate fee for the progression test because it's included within the program fee. Whereas when we talk about the checkpoint and the well-being check, there are certain additional fees which is available in the fee list, where the school exams officer and the coordinator and the head of the center can know about it. Moving ahead, the overview of the new performance bands and reporting from 2023. So these are some of the things which have been changed. There has been a change. As you all know that previously for the progression tests, which were conducted in mathematics, science, English, and English as second language, there were 3 categories: bronze, silver, and gold. Whereas now it has been changed to unclassified, basic, aspiring, good, high, and outstanding. At the checkpoint level, what has the change been made? For the both for the primary and the lower secondary checkpoint for the similar subjects, it was scores in decimals, 0.0 to 6.0 score, but that has been changed to a score on the scale of 0 to 50. And again, the similar kind of performance band has been maintained, just the same as the progression tests which are there: unclassified, basic, aspiring, good, high, and outstanding. So we have the 6 performance bands. Alka, would you like to just explain a bit about these performance bands which are there to our audience today?
So
How
as you have
important do
already
you think?
given, yes, already given a detail on this slide, we will give the delegates time to read through it. What is important is that through the checkpoint diagnostic feedback which we get, and through the bands, we get an international benchmarking about our student learners' performances. So when we understand in which band, as per the expectations for that child of that particular year in which they are studying and the levels they are studying, as per the international benchmarking across the world, in which band their performance lies. So that's very, very crucial for us, and gives all the parents, the teachers, of course, the learners are quite young for the primary stage, but even the learner gets a good understanding of which are the strengths, which are the areas on which they have to work, and what is their potential in different areas. So these bands are very significant with respect to international benchmarking which we have.
But the school, Alka, don't you think, for understanding the strength and the gaps so that they can design their learning pattern over there?
I was actually about to ask you, Varnali, to throw a little light that with your experience of working in schools for such long time and now interacting with schools in different contexts, how do you think the leaders and the schools should use these bands and the reports? Would you like to talk about that in your data slides?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Alka, for bringing that up. Of course, I'll be. But before we go into that, let's understand what's the rationale behind this change. This change that was brought from the decimal scoring of 0.0 to 6.0 to a scale of 0 to 50. Then there were changes made in that gold, silver, bronze into the performance bands, which newly have been introduced now, and that's what has been done. So this actually was needed, somewhere, because that gives a very granular form of reporting. Every minute details is taken into consideration while reports are being made. And the progression test and the checkpoints have been brought at a parallel scale. Initially, it was progression tests were given at a different scale, whereas checkpoints were given at a different scale. And it was becoming difficult for schools to explain to the students, their learners, as well as to the parents and for themselves as well, where are they moving with the progression test and with the checkpoint, and how can they bring them together in sync. But with these changes coming in, things have become very smooth. And the checkpoint scores become much easier to understand now. And there's been a complete alignment between the progression test and the checkpoints, With this, I will say that the checkpoint test marks and performance bands actually helps to understand where the learner is. So if we have, suppose, let's consider Jake, who is giving a progression test in January. So it's 2023. Let's consider it 2024 or 2025, maybe it's coming up just another few days' time. So the progression test percentage score and the progression test performance band becoming quite similar when Jake is giving the assessment for the checkpoint in April 2023. The checkpoint is coming at a score of 0 to 50, and also the performance band is similar to the progression test. So with this, we can actually understand where the progression is happening of the learner, the progress in the learning journey, and vis-a-vis to the summative assessment or taking an assessment at the end of the learning stage. And that's what the progression test and the checkpoint is coming together and amalgamating together to give this kind of an overview to the schools which is there. And that's what Alka was actually asking me, that if I could just throw a little bit of light on this and how these progression tests slowly moves into the checkpoint assessments and gives actually a good idea about the learner themselves as to how they are faring and moving in their learning journey. Why progression test results are an indicative of the checkpoint results? When the tests are taken, actually the test administration, then we have the approach to marking and the approach to scoring. So the performance bands a learner achieves may be different at times from the checkpoint. It could be because of the various reasons, maybe on the certain conditions which is happening in the family, maybe because of the kind of situation during the test period, or could have been some kind of an ill health that is happening. So we always say that the progression test performance bands is like a benchmark to understand where the checkpoint bands will be, performance band will be. But also at the same time, it may not be exactly the same indicator also. There can be some kind of a difference, and this is where the difference comes. What the checkpoint 0 to 50 score means for learners. It could be math progression test performance band was high. Science progression test performance is good. English test is, as performance band has been outstanding for this learner, Emily. Now, the score was for mathematics was 36, whereas for science was 29 and English was 42. And for English as 42, it becomes outstanding. For science, it's good. And for mathematics, it is high. So a higher checkpoint score is a subject indicates that learner is likely to be stronger in that subject. And the new 0 to 50 checkpoint score clearly reflects legitimately different levels of performance by the learners. You always have to keep in mind that these checkpoint scores which are there, they are actually not percentages of any raw mark which is there, but rather there's a lot of statistical analysis which goes on, which we call as the RASH analysis. And that's how the performance bands are also being decided over here. So a lot of back-end work goes before a checkpoint report is prepared for every single learner, for the teacher cohort of that particular school, and also for the school itself. So what is reported in the Cambridge progression test and then the Cambridge checkpoint? Let's see the similarities that are there. Of course, both give a subject level reporting using the performance band. So Cambridge checkpoint, the school level reporting is there in both. There's teacher group reporting and comparisons. There's individual learner reporting. There's strand level reporting, substrand level reporting. There's question level reporting as well. But then what is so different that's coming with the checkpoint that is there? Cambridge checkpoint score on 0 to 50 scale. It gives the statements of achievement which comes from the University of Cambridge. There's an Excel spreadsheet which gives a complete detailed report of the whole school with the whole cohort. The end of series report is important as well. So to appear for these checkpoint assessment, you need to prepare your students. So how do you prepare your learners to understand the progress? You prepare them through these Cambridge progression tests which are there. So, Alka, should we share some of our checkpoint results as to how and what do you think this holds a significance for our audience today?
I think, Barnali, that would be a very good idea, because then I would want you to explain to together with me to all of us how these reports are designed and what kind of support value do the schools take out of those reports. How do we analyze it? How do we read them?
Absolutely. That's what is most important, Alka, because the schools get three different kinds of report. There's one report which comes for the school itself as to how the school has fared per subject and vis-a-vis to the world standard which is there. There's a report which is coming for the teachers, which is very important. We all know as teachers that how important it is for us also to analyze and reflect, evaluate and reflect on our teaching journey. How are we faring ourselves? Also, there is a report for the learners. So just let's have a look at that. School level reporting, the overview, the Cambridge primary where English as a second language, mathematics, science, the reports come like this. With a small triangle or pyramid, which you can see at the bottom of each bar, which shows the international average. So for English, the international average is 35, whereas the score is 32 over here for the school. For English as second language, it is 22. The school has also scored 22, so the school can consider that it's at the international average. It's meeting that. Along with that, this kind of an overall score also comes subject-wise. Suppose this is for English. It has come for Cambridge Primary English Overview. This is a kind of a result where 35 has been the international average. For Strand level, for reading, the average for the school is 38, which is higher than the international average. And for writing, it is a little below the international average. So the school gets to understand where should the school focus. And when Miss Rakhi takes up, she will be explaining how the school uses actually these reports for designing their lessons further. Teaching level, group level reporting also comes as to how the teachers have fared. So here a teaching group of E1 has been given of this particular teacher. For this particular teacher, the center average has been 32, and for reading it's 42, and for writing it is 20. For writing, we see that it's just met the center average, and whereas for reading, particularly for this teaching group, it has crossed the center average of 38 and it is at 42. So you can imagine the kind of work that Cambridge does to prepare each of these reports. Now, this is a report for a candidate. So this particular candidate, the overall result is 35. This is for Cambridge Primary English subject. For reading, the candidate gets 46, whereas for writing, the student gets 14. So Alka was just now talking about the strength and sub-strand wise. We will see that, of course, it has been broken down into the sub-strand level for vocabulary, grammar, punctuation, structure of text, interpretation of text. So it's being broken down at a very minute and granular level. And this is done for every single learner of a school. And this examination goes global and worldwide at 2 times in a year, which is at the, we call the May series and the October series. And this kind of a report is sent all across the globe for every school, every learner, whoever appears for these checkpoints. So we understand how important these things are. And this is the kind of statement of achievement that the learner receives at the end of the checkpoint assessment, where the name is given and the, of course, the school name with the center number and the subjects appeared for, the series appeared for, the scores are given. And the most important thing, the student gets the statement of achievement from the Cambridge Assessment International Education with the logo with it, which of course brings up the confidence of the child, because that child has appeared for a global level examination as early as the stage 6 and stage 9. Alka, I just wanted to understand from you also, like you were asking me, that what should we be doing with these kinds of results? Should we just give them away, or what else can we do?
I would rather wait for our expert, here on the panel, Ms. Rakhi, to share how she uses, and I'm sure that's going to be very enlightening for all of us. Yes, we need to utilize the reports for the purpose for which they are there. This is not a regular high-stake examination. This is a diagnostic assessment, and diagnosis needs to be utilized to improve and have better learning outcomes for our students at all stages by all stakeholders, learner themselves, teachers, and the school leaders. So we'll hear more about that from Rakhi, and I'm excited to see how the school has been utilizing the checkpoint reports.
Absolutely. So Ms. Rakhi will help us understand how she has developed the integrated assessment system for her school and how she's been using these reports to the maximum benefit of the learners. Now, we celebrate these things as well.
I was about to ask you the same, because may it be any results, these are not considered as a high stake examination, but yes, any kind of results, reports, there is a lot of excitement around it. So what do schools do once they get these results? Are there any resources through Cambridge which help us, kind of highlight these?
Absolutely, Alka. I'll put this link in the chat box where our audience can go and take down this PDF file. And of course, they will know how should they celebrate the checkpoint results. Every single learner should be there on the dais, on the stage, where their parents will see how they are becoming now global learners. And it's not just so. We always say in Cambridge that we move from local to national to global. And that's where the learner's confidence and comes up when they receive these kinds of certificates from the University of Cambridge at a global platform. And with this, I think I will now introduce our speaker for the evening, Ms. Rakhi Mukherjee. Ms. Rakhi Mukherjee is the principal for Utpal Sangvi Global School and the PPS International Junior College, is distinguished educator and academic leader with over 25 years of experience in curriculum development, teacher training, and leadership. She held pivotal roles in enhancing teaching methodologies and promoting educational excellence. She has been in Cambridge Advisory Body since 2018 to 2020 and is currently our Cambridge School Ambassador. Welcome, ma'am, on board with us today, and over to you. We would love to hear from you and your experiences.
Okay, thank you, Varnali. Thank you, Alka. It was a fabulous setting, good context to what I'm going to speak. Firstly, am I audible? I need to share my presentation, Varnali. May I?
Yes, please go ahead. We are waiting for you. In the meantime, may I request our participants to please put your questions on the chat box and not on the Q&A box. We'll take them up at the end of the webinar.
Okay. Now, before I take you through what I have to say, because we've been doing checkpoint from the time we have got ourselves involved with the Cambridge International Program, and there has been no looking back. Varnali just commented about checkpoint being diagnostics, but audience, please understand, of course, it's a very, very diagnostic examination, right? So the data, it's like a doctor getting a lot of data so you can understand what is wrong with the patient and accordingly lead the patient to the right direction. Cambridge exactly is doing that with the Cambridge checkpoint examination and the data that we share. So as school leaders, I would urge you to please look at the data. Now this data, when you look and when you've been running it over the number of years and running it, consecutively with your Cambridge primary checkpoint and secondary checkpoint, it gives you a lot of information, glaring information. It helps you understand how you're running the system. Okay, it gives you a lot of confidence factor that you are a little better than many. Okay, and that's the data you can share with your parents and win them. Share that kind of confidence with the parent community. C, it helps you to understand how good your faculty is. Are all of them on the same page? And D, the child who's done your Cambridge primary checkpoint, okay, and then moves on to this Cambridge secondary checkpoint, it could be working as an entry and an exit slip. I think one of you did comment in your chats. Now, how I understand the whole thing, or I rather explain the whole thing, will be through why choose the Cambridge checkpoint. You will see that since the students are exposed to an external examination and at that to Cambridge level, they get a lot of confidence in handling, okay, the exam pressure. As I said, it's totally data driven. The kind of reports which we get from Cambridge, the checkpoint, area, okay, it gives teachers an insight into the good brownie points and also the areas of improvement. Students get a lot of information about where they are good, which are the areas they need to look into. It gives them a clarity picture. So when I say the child is not functioning very well in science and give a score to the child, vis-a-vis being a very cool factor that the child is very good with a bio, a chem, but maybe the thinking skills, the setting of practical skills, that is where the lacuna or the pain point arises. If I give data to a parent in this form, they know exactly where to work on. So that's exactly what the Cambridge assessment details. That's what comes to us as a center. And students take, this third point is very, very important, audience. Students taking checkpoint would be best prepared for IGCSE, and I can support it with a lot of information. Again, checkpoint uses this very interesting progression style, okay, right from the Cambridge primary to lower secondary. It takes IGCSE as a benchmark, okay, and then it works backwards, whether it's the checkpoint syllabus, the schemes of work. If you see, they would take IGCSE as the benchmark, and then they work backwards to determine the preparation, and it gives you a beautiful progression grid that shows you that how the learning objectives are getting a little more mature as the student progresses from stage 1 to 9, right? As an institution, okay, getting back to this, here I can support what I say with an example. So when you take an example of how a learner, I'm a maths person, so maths examples come very easily to me. So how a learner develops the concept of reflective symmetry in 3D shapes in mathematics. Now, symmetry is something which will lead them through not only to the IGCSE, but a mature form comes even in the A levels. Okay, so but then what Cambridge does, it looks back at the stages before understanding that the number of sides of a polygon is equal to the number of lines of symmetry and order of rotation. This is the mature student or the mature learner. They would work it back to each stage and then move on to stage 1, where they are just ensuring that the learner is able to identify when a shape looks identical as it rotates. So from that position of understanding of a learner, it would go up to the order of symmetry, it would go up to the number of lines of symmetry and stuff like that. So Cambridge basically works like that. Okay, the system is only very beautifully set up. Okay, why we offer checkpoint, and I would reiterate, if you're offering checkpoint, you need to offer checkpoint even at the grade. My school offers it at the end of grade 6, which is what we call as Cambridge primary checkpoint, and then we move on to Cambridge secondary checkpoint, which is after grade 8. Okay, so what happens is, I have a bar, if I don't know whether this graph is a little visible. Now, this data is taken from Cambridge International. Now, it clearly indicates that when your Cambridge checkpoint assessments, when the students are, consecutively appearing for a Cambridge checkpoint at the different levels which are available, their learning improves, there is a progression, there is a benchmark, of course, against global standards. There's a lot of personalized learning pathways, there's a progression support, and this is an advanced preparedness for even the A-level programs. Okay. Very importantly, the data or the information which comes to us as a center for English, math, and sciences, these are very important data points for all your stakeholders. Okay, now this is my school data of Cambridge primary and Cambridge lower secondary. Now just imagine I am addressing a cohort of my grade 6 and grade 8 parents, or maybe grade 5th standards, right? And I present English for my Cambridge primary English. The score I have got an average is 36, whereas international is only 33. Right? Similarly, for Cambridge lower secondary, look at the mathematics score or maybe the science score. My student's average performance is 40, whereas the international benchmark is 31. So when you present data like this, and of course, if you see the bifurcation given on the right-hand side, so when I say my sciences are 40, it's showing me that the thinking and working scientifically is a 39 score, bio 40, chemistry 40, physics 41, earth and space 40. So as a center, I know that I need to work a little more on getting your thinking and working scientifically. Right? Similarly, for English, English, if you see, international average at the lower secondary level is 34 and my school is 37. Okay, it gives a lot of confidence factor to the parents community. And then when I have to reflect as a leader and my faculty, my HODs reflect, they see, okay, hey, my 35 for reading is something I need to focus. Let us have strategies for a little more for reading. Writing, we are good, maybe we can be better, but reading needs attention. So when when I say, when all the stakeholders are involved, you need to share this data with all your stakeholders and let them understand what you are presenting. It will help them to understand and read data a little more. Similarly, as Barnali was saying, they give you average scores for teaching group. If you see, the purple line is international average and your center average is the yellow line. So again, a lot of confidence factor that we are a little above average, A. Now this graph over here, which is on the right hand side, the teaching score group, if you see the E1, E2, these are basically nothing but your class and divisions. So this is my, I think this is Cambridge Lower Secondary. So this would be my divisions of A, B, C, D, E, F. Okay. Now, as a leader, supposing you have two teachers, sharing this particular cohort of foyer. So my ABC is taken by teacher A and DEF is taken by teacher B. Okay, of course, it's average scores and it also depends on the number of learners, but very clearly, glaringly, you see E6, which is my division A, B, C, D, E, F. F shows a consistent high performing group, right? This is what I am trying to highlight. So when I have this high performing group and this moves into the next class, I have different ways of handling this group. A, I only want to focus on this group and get the best results. Okay, so I put all of them in the same division. No, but our style would be, I would want varied learners, so that I have learners of varying abilities in a class group. So I will break this division E6 and then put students, space out the students into different groups. So then they are the ones who will help my learners of the not so capable learners. So this is how you are as a leader interpreting the data. So you need to study the data. And if you have been consistently, making your center attempt the Cambridge examination, you will see a similarity in pattern. And that similarity is what you need to look at. Okay, now this is my data for English, where very clearly, if you see, writing shows consistency. Okay, but reading, you will see my division A, there is a dip. My division C and D are good. F is also good. Again, my division E has a concern. So accordingly, you can allocate a very competent faculty into that particular division and move the whole cohort, exactly the same way. So then you can do a lot of focus group work. Okay. Now, this is an excerpt of one of the data sheets which we get. Now, if you focus on this 5B1, this is data, my school data, so I can share it openly. There are no rights to it. Okay, 5B1, if you see vocabulary and language, consistently students have got a 0 mark out of 1. So we were very curious. We went and tracked back the question paper. So this particular response sheet is from my April 24 question paper, English Lower Secondary, non-fiction. And if you see this question in context or in conversation is 5B. The writer describes tripod as squat. Okay. How does this quality relate to the function of the object? Now, this particular question is using connotation words. So what is the school level? We have identified the problem. Okay. If you see, problem is very clearly identified, that my 5B, because the students didn't understand the connection. So that means there is understanding connotation words is a gray area. As a center, I need to work on. So what is the intervention that we do? What kind of resources are we supporting? Right? I'm sharing one of my excerpt of one of my worksheets. I'm sorry for the quality because we just took a screenshot. If you see my question 3B, this is a worksheet, my in-house worksheet. The writer uses the word clutches. What does this tell the reader about the robot called ratchets? Right? So this question is created in similarity to question 5B of the checkpoint Cambridge paper, which I just said, where the word squat was in relation to tripod, which connotes position. Similarly, this 3B question The worksheet created clutch, which is the verb, is in relation to robot, okay, which is connoting power. So the teacher explains this concept to the student. Maybe, in our mad rush, we must have missed out the point, or we would have not given enough emphasis when we were teaching the point. And so my data showed that my whole school, at least that particular division, was missing this out. So this is how what happens is when you understand, you read data, you immediately can mitigate the problem by making your school level intervention, making your program more robust. So these are just a few examples that we do in our school. So here, one of my HOD for English, when she studied the paper, she had a lot of reflection. She actually, analyzed each and every component of the paper to understand what were the needs of paper one, what was asked, where were the gray areas that my student missed out. For example, if you see, and also the positive observation, she saw that the entire response sheet that we got, it showed that our ideas were well organized in the paragraphs or in the sections. It overall supported the overall cohesion and the shaping of the narrative. Punctuation is used accurately. And I want to share, at one point of time when we would get data, we would surprisingly get a negative mark or a dip with punctuations. And then we realized maybe we're not giving that kind of importance. And see, with the intervention, the reflection shows that the latest report showed that punctuation was used accurately. So this is how you can make small minor tweaks in the system, sometimes because of our various other, activities we miss out. So this is how it works. Okay. And as I showed you, if you had looked at my previous data, you would have seen that vocabulary and language skills where my writing was good. Okay, the overall analysis showed that students were good with writing, but the overall vocabulary language skills were showing a dip. So at the school level, our interventions were started giving a lot of emphasis to reading comprehension or vocabulary, some extra reading time to build their comprehension skills. Reading periods were specified in the timetable. We gave a lot of importance. In fact, when we do the summer reading, book list, summer reading readers we send to students, will look at the genre which they are going to be dealing with in the next academic year, and based on that we identify readers which would highlight those particular genre, and then we give that a summer reading program. So students are already a little more prepared to handle the checkpoint. Okay, so, and yes, of course, today life is like a zero without technology. So we use a lot of gamified learning apps for improving vocabulary and language skills. Okay, so these, what you see, your Duolingo, okay, Fluent U, Cohort, Huzu, etc. These are either, shown in the classroom, and if paucity of time, they can be given as weekend assignments to whichever ERP or whichever portal you use to communicate with parents. And these are fun activities, and at the same time, the purpose is also achieved. Small group, focus group working. Many times I see students are all, into small groups in my foyer area, and an English class is happening. And this is how context is given to one group, main idea is given to another group, a third group is given how to analyze the text, and all of them have their responses, and they collate all of it, and they do a very enriching session, classroom teach. And we take the DEAR program very seriously. I think most of the schools do. So we have one period allocated. It's like once a month, where we ring a bell and the whole school stops. It's like a statue mode, and everybody picks up their favorite book and reads. So it's called Drop Everything and Read. We take this program a little more seriously because we realize that reading, comprehension, analysis, this is where my students are missing out. Okay. Now, again, as leaders, when you see your checkpoint results, you will suddenly notice recurring patterns in students. Okay. You will see that there are students who are excelling in their writing and their speaking skills. Now, once you identify and figure out these students, you give them a little more challenging task. So when you are sending them for the competitions, inter-school competition, again, you can go back to your checkpoint data and see the ones who have got, the full scores on writing, or speaking for that matter. Let them expose them to those inter-school debates or inter-house debates. Students who are very good in writing, there's the Queen's Commonwealth Essay Competition by the United Kingdom, UK. Encourage your students to participate, have reading challenges for them. Similarly, you have active classroom strategies. Most of you do. You have debates, you have presentation, you have persuasive speeches. Now, when you're doing all these always have the Cambridge checkpoint data at the back of your mind. So, okay, oral skills are somewhere. Your data reveals that oral skills are, or maybe analysis is missing. So give them some kind of an excerpt from the news, okay, and then tell them to analyze, interpret the data. I mean, we're doing all of it, okay. But if what Cambridge checkpoint data just gives us, it gives us a little more focus, and it gives us a little more nudge or a push to handle data in that form. Okay, and of course, Cambridge University Press has wonderful resources. We do use those audio resources which is there in the in your the uh, resource sheet which is given to us, and then we use that for our listening skills, and some of them we are using it for broadcasting, all the other activities which we do in the classroom. Okay. Now there is a very interesting demographic breakdown of a total entry for Cambridge lower secondary checkpoint. This is just one example which I'm showing from my school data. If you see under 13 and under, 15 and over, and unknown, and if you look at the age factor 14, every time consistently you will see 14. Your average score is good. So it's giving a clear-cut indication that if you're doing your checkpoint, Cambridge checkpoint, it's better that they do it at the 8th standard level, either beginning of 8th standard or end of 8th standard level. It works. Okay, now again, this data which you see, as Bernali spoke, and also Alka seconded, this is my science data. Now it gives you the strands. And these strands, if you see, biochem, physics, earth and space, and of course, thinking and working scientifically. If you see very clearly, it's saying bio is out of 20, chemistry out of 19, physics out of 19, earth space out of 18, thinking and working scientifically is out of 24. So you can see a lot of weightage is given to thinking and working scientifically, and rightly so, because once they move from grade 8 to your IGCSE years, there's an ATP component, okay, where they are actually planning an experiment. If you're not taking your practical component, you do the alternative practical. So planning experiment. And similarly, even in the A levels, your science students have to plan an experimentally. Now, this skill, which they are developing at the checkpoint level, thinking and working scientifically, this skill comes handy to these students at that level. So if you work on the base very well, okay, things always get better. So if you have to give a lot of importance to the weightage that the checkpoint is indicating. So this is our base for planning and implementation of a stage-wise curriculum and assessment. Even when the teachers are making blueprint of your question papers, maybe you can look at this kind of a weightage. Okay, then you are absolutely in sync with what Cambridge checkpoint does and what is the need of the IGCSEs. This can also, give you that kind of information. Now, so when you dig deep into that particular stand, that is the thinking and working scientifically, there is further bifurcation. When you say thinking, working scientifically, there is model and representation, there is inquiry, which is purpose. And now if you see scientific inquiry, Cambridge gives a lot of importance to it. One, level A, it's purpose and planning the inquiry. Second, carrying on the inquiry. And thirdly, your analysis, evaluation, and conclusion. And you need to pay a lot of attention to this, because today the entire environment is flooded with data. How does the student analyze? How does the student evaluate and then conclude data? This is not only prevalent for science as a subject, it's prevalent for different situations. Even a commerce student needs to, get competency in this particular skill. Yes, so right from the teachers for the primary to lower secondary, they actually collaborate with the teachers who are teaching the IGCSE and A level. They have discussions on this table, and they realize that there has to be a strong base to the scientific inquiry purpose. Okay. Now, again, if you go back to data, this is the one of my, I think this is again 2024. This is science. If you see this question 13B1, I have highlighted it because many students have landed up with a 0. And then you back check with the question paper. What was this question which made the students land up with a 0? How important was this question, and what was the ask of the question? And if you see, it was again giving you some data some natural selection, and whether the environment created was good for this particular plant. So it's giving you some narrative, and based of the narrative, you need to have your understanding, and then you need to express your opinion. This question, tick to show these results support the theory of natural selection. They had to first read the data, they had to understand, they had to go back to the knowledge, and they had to say yes or no. And in this, majority of students showed a dip. This is my live data, my live Cambridge data which we have got. So what did we do then in that case? What were the interventions level? Now again, we go back to the worksheets, and we made some changes in the worksheet. If this particular worksheet talks about dodo, and of course it's given a lot of narrative, how the dodo builds nest, how they have never met human beings, and etc etc. And the student needs to understand all it, read it through, and then give 2 reasons why you think the dodo becomes extinct. Okay, so what I'm trying to say in a nutshell is, you see the Cambridge data, the checkpoint data, where your school has faltered. Go back to the question paper, try to understand what was it that your students couldn't decipher. Okay, once you understand, you have diagnose the problem, go back to your school level intervention and do resources which support the students. So it would not only support the existing cohort, the students who are entering that particular class and the students who are moving out of the class, all the 3 cohorts of 4 years can be on the same page. This is how you are developing scientific inquiry. So this substrand is where we felt we faltered, and this is how we understood that interventions have done. Other than that, we, of course, many schools do it, but then I was just trying to say, have a lot of focus when you're doing. You can have, for example, in our children's day, we did a lot of fun activities, but we also involved science, because we realized a little more science intervention at the scientific, and we did experimentation. Why only senior children? Even my early years, experiment with skeleton, getting into the classroom, and the teachers, showing them the different areas to look into and stuff like that. Activities where a polar habitat that cannot be recreated into the classroom, then you can use technology and show them. They can be visual simulations for topics like spaces. Okay, where nature involved, take students for a nature walk. But again, whatever activity you do, you would be thinking, I'm a little repetitive, but I think this is something very close to my heart. Whatever we do, it's not something on face value. It has to have a very deep thought. So everything has to have a purpose. Okay, so again, lab sessions were incorporated. This we realized when we were not doing lab for all my cohorts, for all my grades, we realized its need, and that's a skill which Cambridge has been wanting students to understand right from the lower grades. So regular lab timetables were created and stuff like that. Okay, now presenting a maths case study. Okay, now look at this particular student. She's got a 50 and 50. Okay, 50 on 50 as an overall score, a fantastic student. But if you look at the breakup which Cambridge gives me, thinking and working mathematics full score, algebra, geometry, stats full screw. Number is where she missed out, 43. Okay, because of her average being, other scores being good, she landed with a 50 on 50. So we do not need to be very happy with it. We can see very clearly glaring data coming to me from Cambridge that this child needs intervention in numbers. And when we saw her detailed report, for every student, a detailed report comes, a substrand. In numbers, if you see, she messed up in fractions, decimals, percentage, ratio, and proportion. Now, this is my 8th standard child. And this is too alarming to me, because I know in the IGCSEs, percentage, ratio, and proportion has a lot of weightage. Decimals, it would not be solving a decimal problem, but decimal implication in their maths portion is a lot. So we cannot just let this just go light on this data. So what do we do, right? Again, going back to my classroom examples, these kind of questions come into the worksheet. Transformation was one area where the students had a concern. So we tried to, incorporate the Cambridge checkpoint question paper, the questioning style into my worksheets. This is here. I want to show you a video. Transformation is a very dry topic. Students don't understand. So the teachers make it very interesting, a little more tangible to them. And it's a very simple activity. You do not need rocket science for it. They're just So can you see how she's counting the squares? This is how maths can actually, be taught very beautifully. The student doesn't consider this as a vague thought. They're actually seeing how enlargement can be used in everyday life. So with these kind of simple activities, he's just used a ribbon and he's going to use a tape right now. The teacher will help. And this activity is wonderfully done in the classroom. No rocket science, no expensive, resources to be required. But again, why did we come up with this? We realized transformation is one area where students are missing. Maybe they are not able to understand. So make the concept a little more tangible, make them understand a little. And that's how we came up with this activity. Okay. Now, okay, you have data. If you feel there is a dip in information, you do a damage control, you bring out a lot of changes in your resources. Now, how can Cambridge data, checkpoint results, have as a predictor or an indicator for further career avenues? Now, this is one student of mine, Roshni. Now, Roshni is brilliant in sciences. If you see, her overall score is 43, but if you look at a bio score, physics, your chem, okay, and bio, earth and space, and physics. These three scores are very, almost touching a full score of 50 on 50. So when you understand this, and when these students go to the higher classes, my IGCSE and A level, counseling, especially career counseling, comes in big. Now, this information is very glaringly saying or showing you the interest level of the child. So at the lower levels, you can encourage the student to go into STEM competitions to refine her interest. Okay, when you have to give career pathways to this child, why not suggest environmental physicist? Because it applies physics principles to Earth's environment process and their biological impact. So you see how your physics, bio, and Earth all are coming onto the same line. Similarly, climate change scientist. Again, there is a combination of physics, bio, and earth science to study and mitigate the effect of climate change on ecosystem. Again, space agriculture scientists. They develop sustainable farming methods for space exploration, integrating bio, earth system, and physics. So just looking at the data point of the child, you can understand the level of interest, and of course it can be an indicator for further career avenues. You never know, this girl could be a beautiful agricultural scientist tomorrow thanks to the guidance given by Cambridge and the teachers. So that's my pitch to all of you. Varnali, I hope I am on time and we are ready to take on questions.
Yes, absolutely. May I request Alka to please sum up the whole thing a bit, because Ma'am Rakhi has given a wonderful presentation, and I think it's going to actually lift our audience. If you could, Alka, help audience just to sum up for our audience today.
Yes, Pranali, I would love to sum it up. I think your internet connection is also a little, yes. So, yes, thank you so much, Rakhi, for sharing such a exhaustive explanation on how to leverage the checkpoint reports to the best advantage for getting the right learning outcome or the better learning outcome at each level for our learners. You not only just emphasize the need to use the diagnostic reports for the purpose for which they are designed, but you gave examples by taking case studies. So I think this is very, very valuable learning for those who have not yet utilized checkpoint to the hilt, for the purpose for which they have been designed. So thank you so much. And here comes your experience as a principal and a person, as an educationist who values the assessment in real sense. That assessment means to support learners with the next level of helping them go to the next level of learning. So these insights are very supportive. I'm just summarizing what you have been sharing so that our learners get back into the key takeaways. So yes, using diagnostic reports to identify areas of strength and weaknesses. That is the real purpose of it. Developing targeted interventions. Ms. Rakhi gave, elaborate examples around them. So using targeted interventions, which are developed based on those report cards which are coming for the learners, and addressing knowledge gaps, not just as individual learner level, but also for the whole cohort and the batch of students. and then informing instruction, what next to be doing, what the teaching should be for different areas. So that informed teaching is now based on the reports which have been analyzed. And then adjusting the teaching strategies, like you have rightly said, to the need of the learners as a batch or at an individual level, supporting them with the next higher stage of journey into which they are stepping, like from primary to lower secondary or lower secondary to IG. So students and teachers are now having more information around their strengths and the areas for development. And accordingly, the customization of teaching learning, the support, scaffolding, everything is designed to support through the diagnostic feedback which has come. And encouraging a growth mindset through all this, to all this leveraging of the reports, which was the most important takeaway, at least for me, and using data to track the progress of the learners. You have very, very clearly shown us how this tracking can happen, and how does it support the teachers in understanding how the learners are, which are their dips areas, and which are where are they going wrong, which are the strengths, and then taking them as to the level of subject choices, helping them make informed subject choices, and collaborating with group colleagues at the teaching level, at the school level, because we adult educationists are there to support our learners. So that collaboration in diagnosing is very, very much needed. So throughout your talk, what came across was your expertise, your passion for using data-driven insights to improve student outcomes. This was really, really inspiring. And thank you again for all your time and the back-end, work which has gone into sharing all these details. Thank you so much.
Alka, just one point. I think a big shout out to my entire team, my staff, my HODs, my supervisory level, my entire leadership. It's a lot of collaboration from all areas that come out with some beautiful pictures like this. So I wanted to have a mention of that.
We would like to thank your team as well. We are really indebted to all of them for sharing these valuable insights. And these are just the hard work today, which is visible, but I know how much of hard work is going into supporting learners with their learning journey at your end, which was shared with us today. So thank you, team Utpal Sangvi.
Are there any questions? Please feel free to ask. I have already answered one, because there was somebody who wanted to know if these recordings will be available for future reference. Of course, in the YouTube, you can see them. And I just have one question to our speaker of the evening, Ms. Rakhi. Ma'am, could you just help our audience today understand that how is it that you orient the parents about this checkpoint?
Sure. Firstly, the data, all the response sheets which come from Cambridge checkpoint is given to students. Okay. My HODs have a session. I'll tell you the entire process, how we do. My HODs do a very deep dive analysis of the data. Then we meet the teachers. My checkpoint years are, at the end of grade 6 and at the end of grade 8. So we meet the teachers cohesively from grade 5 to grade 9. So they know from where to start and what to take. So if example grade 8, if I see a dip, my grade 9 teacher needs to know what happens. Now when we have an orientation with parents, we do share data with them as well. And luckily for us parents, because they see the value add in the system, they have never questioned us why should my child appear for a checkpoint exam. I have a cohort of 180 per foyer, and it's a mandatory. There is no option. Everybody does a checkpoint exam. So I think because of the data sharing with them, because of the kind of results they see, they don't question. So one thing is talking about it, and one thing would be doing the whole thing in action. So when you actually prove it to them that this is actually helping them, I think that says it all.
Thank you for answering.
Thank you. So Alka, we understand that time and again it's the same thing that comes up. It's about the learning journey. It's about the progress of every learner that we talk about over here.
Absolutely. And I know that the fact that there are no questions shows how well, Ms. Rakhi has informed our participants today how to utilize and maximize.
And a very heartfelt thanks and a gratitude to Ms. Rakhi Mukherjee and her team to come up today and enlighten all our audience.
So since you all are from different schools and we have registered through webinar, it would be very difficult to share the presentation. Of course, like Barnali has already shared, that this complete recording is there on the YouTube. It will be uploaded in 15 days. So you will not get it immediately. It will take around 15 days of time to have it uploaded. So you will have to wait for that time, but you can watch it again and again. So the presentations will be there.
So there's one question that's come up. Any links or resources that you can share with us for our teachers apart from School Support Hub for Checkpoint?
So in the sense, are you talking about learning resources or, the ones at School Support Hub for related to every subject are the ones which Cambridge as a board officially, emphasizes on using. Any other is the features are free to look at the curriculum framework around those and supporting the learning around the areas where you feel the importance. That is up for the teachers to pick and choose from the wide range of supports which are available across the web. So you have to see that they match the curriculum framework. Rest officially as Cambridge, we will share everything which is there on the School Support Hub.
If I may just, yeah, I want to add.
Please.
Firstly, a lot of resources, as Alka rightly said, is there. If you see the schemes of work, okay, if you see the Cambridge University Press resources, there's a lot of mapping already in place. Okay, along with that, if you see the past checkpoint papers, if you see the kind of questions that come, and you tweak your worksheets and your test sheets based on that, I think you are absolutely in sync. You do not need a lot of other external data. Right. So
Absolutely.
look at the checkpoint scores. Okay. Identify where are the pain points, okay, of your institution, and then make your worksheets, your test sheets, your resources a little more robust to, actually, I will use the word attack those areas. I think these three things can, you don't need a lot of other external resources. For example, the transformation video which I shared, we identified transformation was a problem. Why? Maybe student, it's not tangible to them. It's not like a physics, chemistry, bio where I can show chemicals. Okay. So how do you make it tangible? By doing a small activity like that. So they were just a tissue roll or, things like that. They're very, very simple. Okay. But what is needed is you need to sit together as a team. Okay. Understand where the things are going wrong and then come up with resources. You may have a lot of resources on the web, okay, but again, as intelligence sharing, I would this is my humble submission, only pick up what is going to be useful to your school or your community. Otherwise you would just be lost in the resources and nothing will happen. There will be no value add to the system.
I agree with you completely, Rakhi, and thank you for sharing that. So we come to the end of the presentation, yes, on the webinar also, and we can see when the YouTube will be loaded, it's in 15 days. It's Cambridge International Education channel on which it will be uploaded. There are many more YouTube, recordings which are available of our previous webinars also. So you may be able to watch them there as well. And anything you would like to add?
Feedback always matters. And the feedback form link has been put in the chat box. There's also a QR code which you can scan and put your feedback. Please, before leaving the meeting today, do put in your feedback, because that's where we also get to work and understand whether your expectations have been met or not, so that we can work further on this.
Thank you for taking out time in the evening. This shows how passionate we as educators are in supporting our learners in their learning journey and giving them the best possible support as teachers and educators. So thank you so much for taking out time for this webinar.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. I think it, like Alka has said, I second her words that it shows the passion of the educationists who are with us today. Please put in your feedback. The feedback form link is there, and also you may scan the QR code and put your feedback. It matters to us. We would love to hear back from all of you, whether your expectations have been met or not. If not, then we can definitely work on that and come back with another session on this. In case of any further information, please get in touch with the SDM or the regional manager of your area, and we'll be happy to help you further. We have already put the feedback form link. I will post it again. Please feel free to put in your feedback. It matters to us. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. And I think we will be closing this webinar in another 1 or 2 minutes, giving them time to fill in the feedbacks.
The link for Time to Celebrate is also there. Please go through the chat box. There are a couple of links which have been put earlier. It's celebrating Cambridge checkpoint details for primary and lower secondary. All the links have been put over here. Even there are a lot of FAQs related to the checkpoint, which will be very helpful for you as a school and to know and help your parents understand checkpoint. So please feel free to download all the links and the information that's available. Alka, over to you.
So goodbye, everyone. We have another sessions planned for this Zoom platform. So we would be taking leave from you all. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.